And a very good morning to you. Dwight Davis with you for our Sunday morning bird notes. This morning we will talk about not a bird, but a birder, or a bird watcher, as he might have been called in his day. His birthday was last month, October 27th, in the year 1858. He was an enthusiastic naturalist and bird watcher from an early age, when his family called him Teedy. Naturalists in his day identified birds primarily by shooting them, and our famous birdwatcher shot a lot of birds and other animals. To quote one entry from his diary, "I shot several crossbills in the woods. A woodcock was shot near Paul Smith's. None of the inhabitants knew what it was." He was sickly and extremely nearsighted as a child, but he grew up to be a rough rider and to carry a big stick. We're talking, of course, about Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States. The love and study of birds was but one facet of the life of one of this country's most robust presidents, but it was an important one. Because of his weak eyes, he became especially adept at identifying birds by their songs. At age 19, Roosevelt wrote and paid to have published, along with his good friend Henry Minot, The Summer Birds of the Adirondacks, a list that was based upon observations done over 3 summers. The two companions listed 97 birds, some of which were unknown even to longtime residents of the region. Roosevelt's second publication in 1879 was a list of birds found around his home in Oyster Bay. And there is a list of birds seen in the White House grounds. This, while he was in Washington, living in the White House as president. It was printed by one Mrs. L.W. Maynard in her Birds of Washington and the Vicinity. Throughout his busy life, Roosevelt always had time for birds. In a letter to his friend, naturalist John Burroughs, he wrote, "That warbler I wrote you about yesterday was the Cape May warbler. As soon as I got hold of an ornithological book, I identified it. I do not think I ever saw one before, for it is a rather rare bird, at least on Long Island, where most of my bird knowledge was picked up. It was a male in brilliant spring plumage, which made that bird unmistakable." As to Roosevelt's prowess as a bird identifier by ear, we have this remembrance of one Sir Edward Grey. "I found not only that he had a remarkable and abiding interest in birds, but a wonderful knowledge of them. Colonel Roosevelt not only knew more about American birds than I did about British birds, but he knew about British birds also. He had one of the most perfectly trained ears for bird songs that I have ever known." So this morning, a salute to an outstanding birder, who was also, by the way, President of the United States, and created the Bureau of Forestry, 51 federal bird reservations, 150 national forests, and doubled the number of national parks from 5 to 10. He was a friend of naturalist John Muir and naturalist John Burroughs, and said about birds that they should be saved for utilitarian reasons, and, moreover, they should be saved because of reasons unconnected with dollars and cents. The extermination of the passenger pigeon meant that mankind was just so much poorer. And to lose the chance to see frigate birds soaring in circles above the storm, or a file of pelicans winging their way homeward across the crimson afterglow of the sunset, or a myriad of terns flashing in the bright light of midday as they hover in shifting maze above the beach, why, the loss is like the loss of a gallery of masterpieces of artists of old time. The words of birder Theodore Roosevelt.